Do we know what we're talking about?
Season 3.
Hi, I'm John Stevens.
This is Matt Russell.
This is
And this is Pod Have Mercy.
You know, a funny thing happened on the way to dinner.
At dinner.
Night, at dinner. So we're in Waco, as you can tell by our glorious set, our Airbnb. This is the Airbnb set, and so while all the kids are out, we went to dinner.
Yeah.
A place called 1424 Bistro. 1424 Bistro, and waiting on y'all, just struck up a conversation about the church at Chapelwood was in town, and all these kids were out and everything. So then George. Hey, George. Jeff shows up. We ate at a place called George's. That's what
right.
made me think of that.
Yeah, that's right.
And Melanie, you were just you just started talking about your story, and I think it started because when you told me you had 5 kids. Yes. And I was like, Lord, I need to pray for you.
That's right.
And you're like, please do. But you were open and sharing your story and your background, and like your intersection with CareNet, which is a crisis pregnancy organization, and all these sorts of things. And we were just like, God, we could just, I love being able to put these stories, codify them in a way, or put them on tape. There's no tape anymore in there, but on digital or something, so that it can live on, has a greater impact than just one person or 2 people. So tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your story.
Yeah, so I grew up here in Waco, actually on the outskirts, in Bosqueville, little town, Bosqueville. My mom was, very well known, very successful. She worked for lawyers. And then by the time I was about 11, my mom, her life took a shift. She was a single mom. My dad struggled with alcoholism, and she was just, always on her own struggling. And she, unfortunately got addicted to drugs. And from the time I was about 11, I was on my own. And I just kind of navigated through life on my own. After my mom went to detox centers that didn't work, I was in foster care for a little bit, but it wasn't like an official foster care. It was like a foster mom basically took us in, and we went from there to house to house to house, trying to get my mom recovered, and it just never worked. So I ended up, on the streets basically, in really bad company. And it really just corrupted everything that my mom, tried to raise me to believe and do, and for, temporarily. But I really believe, I grew up Baptist, and I was in the Methodist church for a while, and I feel like that foundation really clung to me. It says, raise your child up knowing, God, and no matter how far they stray, they'll always come back. And I really believe that happened with me, because when I hit rock bottom, I was in a really abusive relationship, and I ended up having 4 boys by 22. And so I was pregnant at 16, had my first one at 17. And then by 2010, it was just back to back to back. It was a very domestic, abusive, and emotionally abusive relationship. And by the time I was in my 4th pregnancy, homeless, my family kind of disowned me because of the guy I was with. He was a very bad guy, bad news. And he just took me down a really dark path, and just had nobody. And we ended up in a hotel on Waco Drive. It was right by CareNet Pregnancy Center and Salvation Army, actually. And I was in a really tough situation, and I was pregnant, like I said, with my 4th son. We hadn't eaten in 3 days, and I was ready to give my kids up for foster care or something. I just couldn't see them suffering anymore. And God just woke me up, and he told me to call on him. And I left the hotel on foot, and I just started walking, and I sat in front of Salvation Army, and I asked for help, and they denied me. And the only thing in front of me was CareNet Pregnancy Center at that point. And God, I stayed, faithful, and I kind of always knew God was there from some experiences in the past, whenever I was going through the worst of the worst in my abuse. And I, had read in my Bible, he'll always have the things you need around you as long as you move your feet to it. And so I was like, okay, God, where do you want me to go? And I looked, and there CareNet was, and it was kind of like a tunnel vision in on it. And I walked in, and I asked for some diaper donations, and they were like, yeah, like, can we get you back to like talk to you? And I think with single moms or just moms in struggling with their kids, I think the hardest part is to ask for help, because of, you don't want, the fear of your kids taken away from you, or, the, just the embarrassment of abuse, or the things that you go through. So I was very hesitant to ask for help, but they did call me to the back, and they asked, how they could help. And I just wanted diapers. And at that point, I met a girl named Janie that worked there. And she took me back, and she was like, we offer all these other resources, can we help you? And at that point I was at my breaking point, and I just broke, and I was like, you know what, I can't go back to where I am. I'm going to, I'm ready to surrender this. Like, I can't do it anymore. And she was like, well, just hold on. And I think I have somebody that can help you. And so the CEO of CareNet Pregnancy Center, her name is Deborah McGregor. She's like an angel. And she came in, and it was funny because she looked like my mom did before my mom got on drugs. And so it was just like an instant like connection with her. She's a beautiful woman. And she came in, and she was like, hey, I've been waiting for you, and never met this woman in my life. And I was like, what do you mean? And so she was like, well, God told me, we were going to help someone like you. And we bought a house, me and my husband, and we refurnished it and put food in it. And we just really want to help someone like you rebuild your life. And I was like, you're kidding. I was like, okay, hold on. What's the catch here? This is not real. And she said, the only catch is that, I'm going to ask you to seek righteousness from here on out, and you'll be filled. I guarantee you will be filled if you can just promise that you'll seek righteousness from here on out. And, I was all in, and I said, okay, well, where do we start? And, she gave me the steps to take, and she wanted to help my kid's dad too, the boy's dad, as well. There's a Christian brother, or Christian, it's like a Christian brotherhood around Waco too, that help men and that need to help too. Yeah. And so, but he wasn't willing. So I got away from him through them. And I was one of the first girls that they housed in a house outside of their facility now, because CareNet has a facility now that houses women and children. And I think they house up to 20 at least, women and children in their facility. And, but before that happened, before it was built, they kind of it was like a trial run for me. And they built this house for women and children, and I got to stay there. I stayed there for a year, and I rebuilt my life from there. And I was able to just finally live, freely. And I just, they help me. There's so many resources CareNet gives you. There's not just like, okay, here, you can have all this free stuff. And, they actually give you the foundations and the biblical knowledge that you need to be successful, in this life, even with all the temptations around you. And I think a lot of girls are scared too sometimes, because they always think like, okay, well, what's the catch? What do they want? Like, people don't give free things for no reason. But CareNet's the one place that I can say that they are just genuinely out to help girls, and they give, classes for parenting. I think once you're in a street life, you have to re-educate your mind and learn life. I was very street mentality. My kid's dad, he was a drug dealer. I participated in those things because I didn't know better, and it's a deep, dark circle that you get in. And once you're in it, I think you have to literally be re-educated and just remolded in order to, overcome it, because it's such a darkness. And I know so many girls in Waco, even at 1424, I work with some girls that are struggling getting away from an abusive, toxic relationship. And I've been able to point them in the direction of CareNet, and they have the classes for you. They have the resources. If they don't have it, they'll point you in the direction that do have it. They have counseling. But that's really how I, was able to overcome all of the things that I went through. And I do have to tell y'all a story though, because the reason I was able to do that, I think, is because I was in a trap house. It was a drug house, and it was whenever I just had my second son, and I thought God was nowhere to be found. Like he was done with me. Okay. I was beyond, help, and I was sitting there, and I was alone with my two babies, and I had nothing but a duffel bag and a Bible, literally. And I was just like, how did I get here? Like, how on earth did I get here? I had all these things going for me, and then here I am with a drug dealer and two babies, and I don't know what to do. And I opened my Bible, and the first thing that I read in the Bible as I opened it was Jeremiah 33:3, and it said, call on me, and I will show you all the things that you don't know of. Just call on me. And so I like tears flowing down my eyes. I'm like, all right, God, I'm calling on you. Where are you? Where are you? And no lie, not even 5 minutes later, a crackhead walks in, and he was like,
God has been known to show up in a variety of ways.
It was kind of scary, but he walks in. He was like, oh, what you doing, girl? He was like, I see you got your Bible. And I was like, yeah. He was like, you should read Jeremiah 33:3. He said, if you call on God, he'll tell you all the things you don't know about. He can speak through crackheads just like me. He was like, all right, bye, girl. And I was like, awesome. Okay, God, I guess that was you. He said he can speak through the donkey's mouth. So, he can speak through a crackhead too, right? And so, that shook me. And so that stuck with me, I think, for all the years, even after everything I went through. But that moment right there, I think that is really what kind of just put a fire in me, even though I had to go through a lot of other things. But that is what moved my feet that morning when we hadn't ate for 3 days. And I was like, okay, God, what do you want from me? And I called on him. And I think that, a lot of people just want to call on, people or, even churches, they think that the churches have all your answers or, want even organization, even though CareNet helped me a lot. I feel like, if it wasn't for me calling on God and being led by God to be there, then it wouldn't have happened. And because CareNet is, Christ-centered based, I think that that's why they are so successful, because they don't lose sight on who's really helping us, and so I called on him, and he literally led me right into the doors, and she was waiting on me, and I feel like it was all meant to be. And now I just feel like if I can share my testimony and give people hope. Everybody always asks me why I'm so happy, and so I feel like I'm always ready to give my testimony as to why I have hope in the Lord. And I feel like as long as we can call on him, he'll move our feet and move our feet. Then he will answer us and show us all the things that we don't know of and open opportunities. And it's just been a crazy walk since then, and I've never dreamed of all the things that he's done for me, but I can tell you miracle after miracle story. After I moved into the house, I actually was given a car next. I had a guy come up to me and hand me $15,000 before, just because he said God told him to, and I had been calling on God, and it's just been like that. So I encourage everybody to just really call on him, and he'll show you all the things like he's shown me.
I need to be calling on him more.
Yeah.
Nobody showed up and said, God told me to give you.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things I find fascinating tonight, it's such a redemption story, but there's even redemption after redemption. Tell us about meeting Cruz.
Yeah. So
kind of this second chapter in your life after all of that.
Oh yeah. So I was 22, a single mom with 4 babies, and 3 in diapers at that too. So wow. It was in 2013. From 2017, I was a single mom, and I went through a lot of hardships in that time, but I felt like God gave me path after path like that. That $15,000 paid for a year in a beautiful home to get me away from my abuser. I needed a break one day, and Cruz was in my DMs on Instagram for like a year, and he was asking me to come play slow pitch softball with him, and he swore he wasn't a creeper, and so I was like, okay. So, and he told me to bring the kids, and that was like a good sign, hey, bring the kids. And I'm like, okay, well, it's going to be a public place, and so we finally met, and a week later, he told me that, God told him that those were his kids. And I was like, wait, hold up. That's a little much. I don't think you understand what you're getting into. And everybody thought he was crazy because, he was a single guy, no kids, great, reputation. And, he had a lot of going for himself. And here I am, this hot mess with 4 kids. And he just was like, I feel like this was what I'm supposed to do. And the kids clung to him. It's crazy because the kids look like him too. And so it just kind of all, happened. And then, he asked me to marry him, and we had our daughter, and it's been a journey, to say the least. I feel like I could not have gotten through these last few years without him. The support, I've never had the support of a man, a working man. Praise God for working men. That, was, and he was so selfless with everything. Like, it was like he wasn't just working for himself. He was, since he met me, he was always like, I'm ready to go all in with y'all. We're going to have a better life. And he promised all that, and he's been there through everything for me. So it's been crazy. Our daughter is his little twin, and and he actually, so Cruz actually, battled alcoholism too. And so whenever he met me, and hearing my story, I feel like that kind of gave him the courage to overcome that, seeing everything that I overcame too, and he was able to get through the trauma with me. It's not easy. It hasn't been easy, at all, especially with my trauma. We've gone through a lot of different ups and downs, but it's more spiritually because of the battles within. But just him alone, just having him is just a huge blessing, because everybody thinks that, you have kids, then you're just, you can't have life after that, after the abuse and trauma and all that. So we're just lucky to have him. And so, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing. What was it like like that first year for you when you stepped into CareNet? And it must have, it's so different from the life you had been living and the life that you had come accustomed to or whatever. And then you were stepping into this other. What was it like that first year for you?
Very confusing. I feel like, so I went through counseling through the abuse center in Waco. There is an abuse center. Miss Deborah got me connected with them because she saw the struggles that I had. And I think that helped out a lot. I didn't go very long. I wish I would have gone longer, actually, but it did help me. But I think that, I found my church was Antioch here in Waco. Yes. And I, got connected with them before they got really, really big. And, just miracles just started happening for me since then. And like I said, I think it was just the surrender I had. It was just kind of like, okay, I walked into the whole organization of CareNet, and I walked in, like, they literally told me, like, you have to be willing to, change. And I think that's why I was an easy advocate, I guess you could say, for them, because my surrender was so real, and I was just ready to give it all up, and that's what I did. And it was, I think spiritually, I would not be here right now if it just wouldn't have been for Jesus. And he's just shown me so many different things at my worst. And like I said, I think just re-educating your mind and just really just diving into the Word and just connecting and my prayer life, I think that had a huge impact on how everything just moved in my life. I really believe that the power of prayer is the number one key to everyone's darkness, and I think that CareNet taught me how to do that, I didn't really know how to pray, and I didn't know how to manage, my kids or anything. But that first year, I would not be able to do it if I didn't have the women behind me that I had from CareNet. Like they were my mothers, like my mother hens. They really just reshaped me and gave me the confidence I needed, and they believed in me. That was the main thing.
The women in the program or the staff?
The staff. Okay. So the staff, and then of course Miss Deborah. She's the best there, and I consider her a godmother to me. And I started working for her husband, and he became like a father figure that I never had. And which I have a dad, but he's he struggled with his own battles and different things like that. So I think that the people that you have in your corner is very important, And so I know I wouldn't have been where I am today if it wouldn't have been for that support and just education. And with Cruise, I was able to get my GED. I finally, because I was a high school dropout, and in 2019, very recently, I was finally able to get my GED because we've always worked and things like that. But that was something that CareNet helped with too through Christian Women's Job Corps. They got me connected through them, and so yeah, there's just like endless resources through CareNet for women and even men, because they can point them in the right direction, But yeah, and now they have a facility where they house women and children at that facility, like I was saying, and they do the classes and everything that you need to be successful. And I think that's why I was able to get where I am now today. So
that's wonderful.
On my shelf in my office, I have a Japanese bowl.
Okay.
And it's an art form. They call it kintsugi. Have you ever heard of it? Kintsugi. Yeah. But what they do is they make this bowl out of pottery, and they break it intentionally.
Oh, wow.
And then they put the pieces back together using a solder that's made out of gold. And so it just has this beautiful look to it. I'll pull up a picture. I'll show you on the phone. But it's that's what I think about when I hear your story.
Yeah,
just molding it back together.
Yeah, it's like I think God puts in horrible situations like that, God puts you back together, and you're actually more beautiful on the other side of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so it's like these, it's just beautiful art, and it becomes people seek after this, which doesn't make any sense to me. It's like, why would you?
Crush something.
Why would you? Yeah. See.
Oh wow. Yeah.
And so they put these pieces back together. They break it. They put it back together, and everyone is unique and different.
Wow, that's what I feel like. I feel like I'm not the same person that I was, and I was crushed in the worst ways, And I'm thankful for all my trials, and I'm thankful for my abuse. I'm thankful for my abuser, and I am thankful because I've decided to forgive them. I think that forgiveness really just it was the gold that they used to put it back together.
Wow.
I think that is definitely what that has to be.
Yeah, it's God. God is that master craftsman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but you got to have your pieces. Mm-hmm. And then the solder that's used are different. You think about all these people in your life that have gone out of their way just because they wanted to be obedient to God.
Yes, yeah,
and then,
absolutely.
And pour out into people like you. Well, it's a great story.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And it's one that, thanks for sharing it with us. Just the encouragement. And I know there's CareNets all over the country. We have CareNet in Houston. Actually, I think I've been to a luncheon before for CareNet in Houston. And so the CareNet here, I think, is CareNet of Central Texas, I think is what it's called. Yeah. And so they're all over. So people who, when you run across, if you have people in your life or you run across people in your life that you find them in a similar situation or something, that's a good resource to... Oh,
yeah. They do free ultrasounds, all kind of medical things for women in pregnancies and crisis pregnancies. Like I said, the resources are endless. It's their goal to, if they don't know where to point you, they're going to find it for you, And so I didn't know which way to go. I didn't know how, to, apply for certain resources that I needed for my children. My fourth son that I was pregnant with whenever I got involved with CareNet, it's even crazier because I went to CareNet at 20 weeks, and at 28 weeks is when I had my son. And so if I wouldn't have been there in that home in a safe place with a car to make it back to the hospitals and stuff, I seriously think I would have lost my kids altogether. I ended up having a super early pregnancy, and Miss Deborah was the only one there through delivery with me. And, she was there through my son's NICU experience. And then he spent, months after that in the hospital. And so they really become like family. They genuinely care for you because they want to, it's not because they want you to pay them back, or, they want you to pay it forward, if anything, So, I think that, it's a great resource that more people need to know about in Waco. And I think that it can definitely save a lot of lives, so mine. So
that's fantastic.
That's awesome. Well, we always end our podcast by saying this. I'm John Stevens.
And I'm Matt Russell.
And this is Pod Have Mercy.